welcome back to this now 8th part of this video tutorial series on editing audiobooks the Deyan audio way. I'm just going to take a look real quick at some simple kind of fixes outside of the normal types of edits. You saw that normally what we're doing is clearing pauses, replacing them with clean room tone, or just clearing noises, possibly having to zoom down to the waveform and cut it cleanly along the waveform to make the edit. And those things require no processing, which is great. We're going to take a look at some other kind of, fixy kind of edits, things to do when things kind of go wrong. And at least one of them will require some processing, and you'll see when processing actually does come into play and can be important. So right away, we're going to take a listen here.
When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing.
So right away, we have sort of a missing D there, right?
And looked around. She could see.
Sounds like he was going to say it, but then he didn't. So what I usually do in places like this is I'll just make a marker, not a pickup notes marker, mind you, but just a marker for myself, hitting Enter key, and then just put the D here. And what I'm going to look out for later is I'm going to look out for another D that I can use, and I might even capture the region so that I can use it later if this keeps happening. If you notice stuff like this is happening a lot, we can capture the region. So let's keep listening.
And looked around. She could see nothing.
All right, let's go to our edit view.
Looked around. She could see nothing but the great gray
Now listen here.
But the great gray
It sounds like he's saying kind of a P before great, right?
The great gray
gray. So we, that's another thing where we can just get rid of that.
See nothing but the great gray prairie on every.
Right, and right away we have a third problem.
Great gray prairie.
Which is that this P pops a little. It's just a little hard, So this is a place where we would take a look at some audio suite EQ here, and we're just going to do that. Let's try 80. Let's take a listen. Right, that sounds a little higher frequency, right?
Great gray prairie.
Oh, didn't quite work. Let's.
Great gray prairie on every.
There we go. That takes out some of the harshness a little there. Let's maybe.
Great gray prairie on every side. But the great gray prairie on every.
And notice when I'm done editing, I use Option W to get back to our edit view here. So that's two problems taken care of.
But the great gray prairie on every side.
Right, and right here we have, fortunately, a D that we might be able to cut and paste, or copy and paste.
On every side.
So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Command R that and call it ! D, because we're in the ! room tone. So that actually puts it right there in my clip bin, right? So I'm going to hit Option Q to get back to where we were. Oh, there it is.
And looked around. She could.
Right, and so we should be able to slide that D in there, maybe with some finagling.
And looked around.
Yeah, but now this kind of doesn't sound natural, so I'm just going to cut this breath.
And looked around. She could see nothing.
Yeah. Maybe soften it.
And looked around. She could see nothing.
Yeah. So that's great. And the interesting thing to point out here is this works with D's and T's and P's and K's at the ends of words really well. In the middle of words, it's going to be kind of a hassle, and that's probably not going to work. But consonants that appear at the ends of words that might be missing due to poor performance or an expander or gate cutting it off, they're pretty easy to cut and paste. Sometimes you might have to do an audio suite gain, to get it to sound exactly right. But in that case, what we can now do is delete that. If that had been left there at the end of the session, I probably would have gone and done one more search for a D that worked. If for some reason really no D could be cut and pasted to the end of that, I'd mark it for pickups, but usually that shouldn't be necessary for something like this. So now we have something almost completely different sounding here. We have
doorway and looked around. She could see nothing but the great gray prairie on every side.
Right. So there's some basic things fixed. These are the basic kind of fixes that we hope editors will do and not leave to be re-recorded, because these are things that we and the directors and the actors all know we can fix during the edit and QC pass. So these aren't the kind of things that hopefully there should be, that should be littering the pickups notes, that we shouldn't have too many consonants at the ends of words. Plosives, you should try to correct them. Little stutters and stuff, you should try to correct, and that's about it. I mean, if you have some really clever editing skills, they are definitely going to come in handy when trying to do these kind of fixes. But the thing is, you're not really supposed to spend, a large amount of time making these fixes. If you can do it quickly, like I was able to do with some quick and easy go-to, tricks, then great. Especially a great thing is to keep, Audio Suite plugins that have a default setting that you use a lot. And if you set a macro to open that Audio Suite plugin, you could have a macro to just, open up and be able to take care of hard P's, things like that. So yeah, that's about it for that. I mean, apart from deleting pauses and replacing with clean room tone, and deleting noises, these kinds of things, the processing of hard P's, the replacement of things, of missing consonants at the ends, and just the deletion of things. That's what I meant to say there. Are some of the basic fixes that we want you to be able to do. So as always, if you need any additional help or clarification, let me know, and hopefully that explains it in pretty good detail. Thanks a lot, guys.